Last time, we've talked about the fox spirit incident at Windsor House. And in that story, there was this figure called the Fox Mother. Sounds wild, right? But the Fox Mother isn't literally a mama fox. It's more like the boss of all the little fox spirits, higher rank, stronger power, basically the one calling the shots. Interestingly, while I was digging into this topic, I saw a comment saying that the fox spirits at Windsor House were actually invited from Northeastern China, which happens to be the homeland of Baojiaxian, the home protecting spirits. So, what exactly is a Baojiaxian? Are they good or evil? What can they actually do? And can I have one too? You'll get all the answers in today's video. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We hang out there every Saturday night. Alright, enough talking. Let's dive right in. First, let's start with a little story. This one is a folklore, not official history, but many people believe it's the origin of the Baojiaxian tradition. It's about Northeastern China, the first emperor of the Qing dynasty. Legend says that before he founded the Qing, he was just a bodyguard serving under the Ming emperor. One night, the emperor had a very strange dream. He saw a massive golden gate shining so bright you could barely look at it. And right in the center of that gate was one giant character, Ming. It seemed like a good sign. Gold symbolizes imperial power, and Ming was the name of his dynasty. Brightness, prosperity, eternal glory. So the emperor was feeling pretty pleased with himself. Until suddenly, a man dropped straight out of the sky and kicked the door wide open. This man was enormous, barefoot, and the moment his foot struck the gate, the character Ming split clean in half. The golden light instantly vanished. Then the giant turned around and sprinted toward the northeast. The emperor was stunned. But just before the giant disappeared, he clearly saw 7 red moles on the bottom of the man's foot. That's when he jolted awake. Still shaken, he summoned his minister to interpret the dream. One minister said, "Your Majesty, the splitting of the Ming character means someone will destroy the Ming dynasty. 7 moles on the foot mean he's heaven sent. And since he ran northeast, that man must come from the northeast. We must find him and eliminate him as soon as possible." The emperor took it seriously and immediately issued the order. And the unlucky person assigned to carry this out, General Li Chengliang. At that time, Li happened to be stationed in the northeast. When he received the order, he was speechless. 7 red moles on the foot? What was he supposed to do? Knock on every door and tell people to take off their shoes? While he was stressing over this impossible mission, one of his bodyguards brought him water to soak his feet. And that bodyguard was Northeastern China. As Northeastern China helped him remove his socks, he noticed 3 black moles on Li's foot and casually mentioned it. Li puffed up proudly. A fortune teller told me these 3 moles are called 3 rings embracing the moon. Means I'm protected by the god of war. That's why I became a general. Northeastern laughed. Well, if 3 moles can make you a general, then how come my 7 red moles haven't gotten me anywhere yet? Li froze. You have 7 red moles? Let me say. Not thinking too much of it, Northeastern lifted his foot, and there they were, 7 bright red moles. Li's mind exploded. This guy was exactly the person the emperor wanted dead. But since there were only 2 of them in the tent, he didn't dare attack him on the spot. He forced himself to stay calm, finished soaking his feet, walked out of the tent, and planned to bring soldiers back to arrest him. Inside the tent, when Northeastern was cleaning the floor, he suddenly felt the world blur, and an old man with an old woman appeared before him. "Don't be afraid, child. We're fox spirits from Changbai Mountain. We came to save you. You are the reincarnation of the purple star from heaven. Your fate isn't supposed to end here. Li Chengliang is going to kill you. You must run." "Why would it kill me?" "Because of the 7 red moles on your foot. The emperor thinks you are destined to overthrow his dynasty. he wants you dead. The execution order has already been given. But the tent is surrounded by soldiers. How am I supposed to run? We crowd in through the hole in the back. You can leave the same way. Norhachi didn't hesitate. He crawled out through the hole and escaped with his life. What happened afterward is recorded in actual history. Norhachi rebelled, defeated the Ming, and founded the Qing dynasty. To repeat the fox spirits, he named them Xian Taiye and Xian Tainai. However, somewhere along the chain of command, a minister misheard the order. Xian Taiye became San Taiye, and Xian Tainai became San Tainai. And from that point on, people just kept calling them by these odd, misheard names. As time went on, fox spirits became widely known. Because their powers were considered especially strong, people began gradually inviting them into their homes to protect the household. These spirits were then called Baojiaxian, literally protecting, home, immortals. Later on, 4 other animals became part of this system. People often refer to them as the 5 great immortals: the fox, the weasel, the hedgehog, the snake, and the mouse. These 5 became the core of the tradition because they are believed to be the easiest animals for humans to communicate with spiritually. Close enough to interact with, yet still mysterious, powerful, and independent. Among the 5, the fox immortal is considered the most powerful. They are said to protect people, bring good fortune, and drive away negative energies. And because fox in Chinese culture is often associated with beauty and charm, some people also believe fox immortal can influence relationships and help people to find a good partner. But this is just what folks say. This function has apparently weakened nowadays, since young people in China have stopped getting married. Immortals have to keep up with the time too, I guess. Next is the Weasel Immortal, also known as Xian, Lord Weasel. This nickname is actually pretty funny, because compared to the other immortals, people are especially afraid of offending it. The weasel is believed to hold grudges the strongest. You'll see this in the story later. But even though it can be vengeful, it's also known to be incredibly loyal. Once it chooses a family, it will do everything it can to protect them and support their careers and well-being. And here's the funny part. Out of the 5 immortals, most don't really possess people that easily. But the weasel is a real frequent flyer. If someone is possessed by a weasel, they may act unstable, cry a lot, or seem mentally distressed. Because of that, people believe this immortal has influence over mental health. And ironically, when someone feels off, people will go ask the weasel for help. The white immortal refers to a hedgehog. It governs the family wealth and health. Compared to the previous 2, the white immortal has a calm, steady personality. When it takes on human form, it's often described as a kind elderly woman. If the white immortal comes to repay a kindness, it's usually by healing minor illnesses and bringing financial blessings. The willow immortal is actually the snake immortal. You might be wondering why a snake is called a willow. Well, there are 2 explanations. One says that snakes move in a smooth, flowing way. In Chinese, this motion is called liu, but the original word sounded a little too sly, so people swapped it for a more elegant character with a similar pronunciation as a sign of respect. The second explanation is simply that snakes are slim and long, like willow branches. Either way, this name helps soften people's natural fear of snakes and makes it easier to accept it as a protective deity. The snake immortal ranks second in power. It mainly helps people avoid disasters or accidents. For example, if someone gets into a car accident, with the snake immortal's protection, they might walk away with only minor injuries. In this way, families with members doing high-risk jobs tend to favor worshipping the snake immortal. Last is the most surprising one, the mouse. Seriously? A pest? But hey, don't forget, mice reproduce super fast and are experts at stealing, storing, whatever, food. So people believe the mouse immortal is good at gathering wealth, stabilizing finances, and helping the family prosper with more descendants. In the old agricultural days, that was an extremely important ability. Alright, now that we've talked about these spirits, you might be wondering, they are so helpful, can I have my own Baojiaxian? Good news, yes you can. Bad news, they don't work as well once you leave Northeast China. Let's start with the good news. Regular people can worship the Baojiaxian, and it's actually way easier than you think. First, you need to build a connection with the spirit, and there are generally 3 ways to make that happen. The first way is through your ancestor. If your ancestors invited a guardian spirit generations ago, that spirit will automatically watch over their bloodlines for 3 generations. After the 3rd generation, the spirit leaves. But of course, the family can choose to continue the worship if they want. The second way is by meeting a spirit accidentally. For example, say you are walking in the woods and find a fox spirit caught in a trap. You help it escape. Out of gratitude, that fox spirit promised to become your family's guardian. This is called a good bond. There's also something called a vengeful bond. Let's say you killed a fox spirit, whether by accident or on purpose, then you might start worshipping it to ask for forgiveness. So even though your first encounter was anything but pleasant, the spirit will still protect your family afterward. Because honestly, revenge is exhausting, and cooperation is better for everyone. The third way is the most common. You are in trouble, you need help, so you ask a spiritual medium to invite an immortal for you. This is the easiest method for ordinary people. Once you have an immortal, here's what you need to do to welcome them in. A quick reminder, everything I'm about to describe is traditional folklore, not a religious instruction. And we are not going into ritual level details. This is just cultural explanation. First, find a quiet room that no one uses. This room will become the dedicated space for the spirit. Then you take a piece of yellow or red paper or cloth and write the title of the spirit you are inviting. Next, set up a small table, cover it with red cloth, place some offerings, and light 3 incense sticks. That's your altar. After that, a medium will invite the spirit to move in. When the spirit is there, you must remember to offer incense on important days, like holidays, and the room must always stay clean. Do that, and the guardian spirit will do its job. Sounds simple, but remember the bad news from earlier? They are not very effective outside the Northeast China. That's right. The further you go from their homeland, the weaker their power becomes. Once you leave China entirely, well, their protection basically can't reach you anymore. Why? Because in traditional geomancy, the northeast corresponds to the gun position, the mountain trigram. In feng shui, this direction is also linked to the so-called ghost gate. Put together, it means that Northeast China is traditionally seen as a place closely connected to mountain spirits and forest entities. So when you take the spirits away from this energy zone, their connection to the local spiritual field weakens. Naturally, they can't help their followers as effectively. That's why many believers, when something bad happens, will immediately rush home to seek protection. We've talked so much about the Baojiaxian, and I know some of you who love spooky stories are already getting impatient. So next, let me share some. Maybe they will help you understand this tradition a bit better. The first story comes from a Chinese netizen whose family lives in rural Heilongjiang province. He said that growing up, things like Baojiaxian and their worship halls were completely normal. You see them in all kinds of houses. One winter break, he went back to visit his grandma. His aunt was cooking at the time when suddenly she heard a strange sound coming from underneath a pile of firewood. She moved a few logs aside and got so scared she almost fell backward. It was a whole weasel nest, big ones, little ones, all squeezed in there. Panicking, she grabbed a stick, chased the mother weasel away, and even killed one of the babies. But that very same afternoon, she suddenly developed a high fever. Her whole body started shaking. The village doctor came, gave her an injection, and the fever dropped. But not long after, it shot up again. And this time, she was foaming at the mouth. Right when the doctor had no idea what else to do, the grandma came home. She took one look and said, "This isn't just a fever. She offended something." And that's when the story about the weasel nest came out. Grandma exploded. "Why would you hit them? Worst case, you chase them out. Why kill them?" The uncle got mad and snapped back. "Oh, so you're saying these stupid weasels are the ones making trouble?" Then he grabbed a pitchfork and marched toward the firewood pile. Shockingly, the mother weasel had come back again. She was hiding inside, just staring at him. But the uncle didn't care. He jabbed the pitchfork in and killed several more before Grandma yanked him away. And right after that, things only got worse. The aunt suddenly started talking nonsense, rambling about revenge, saying things like, "Let them feel what it's like to lose a child." That one sentence terrified everyone. The grandma smacked the uncle and shouted at him. The uncle, completely scared now, because it was obvious something had taken over his wife. He dropped to his knees with the grandma, bowing and apologizing, begging the spirits for forgiveness. But weasels are known to hold grudges. No matter how much they apologized, nothing changed. After a while, the aunt finally quieted down, and they thought maybe it was over. Maybe the spirit had forgiven them. But absolutely not. Half a year later, the aunt got pregnant and gave birth to a baby girl. One day, she was tossing the baby up in the air, playing with her. But on the last throw, he didn't catch her. She said her mind just went blank, like something froze her whole body, and the baby just fell straight down and died instantly. No one could explain it. It shattered her completely. For years after that, the word baby became taboo in this family. Later, the OP secretly asked his grandma about it, and the grandma said she believed it's a weasel spirit. It never forgave the young couple, not until they suffered the same kind of loss. Years passed. The aunt had another child, a boy, but he was born with a heart defect. The couple had to borrow money everywhere for the surgery and lived under huge pressure. The following year, she got pregnant again. This baby looked healthy and strong at birth, but later they realized he had developmental delays. He grew much slower than other kids. So all their babies ended up gravely ill. Maybe that was the weasel's revenge, and no one knew where it would finally end. This story comes from a man. He said it happened in his father-in-law's hometown. As for the snake spirit in the story, he never saw it himself. Only his wife and his parents did. A long time ago, when his father-in-law's grandfather was still a young man, he was working in the fields. One day, he looked down into an old abandoned well and saw a small snake. Strangely, it didn't have a tail. For some reason, he lured a small basket down the well and said, "Do you want to come home with me? If you do, climb into the basket." And just like he understood him, the little snake slid right into the basket, curled up, and stayed there without moving. So the grandfather brought it home. In the yard, he set the basket on the floor, said, "Take a look around, pick whichever room you want to live in." Then he left it alone. From then on, the snake really did stay in the house. It only came out maybe once or twice a year, probably to find food, and it basically never bothered anyone. Many years passed. The father-in-law and mother-in-law had been trying to have a child but kept failing. Then one day, after the father-in-law finished working in the fields and went home, something extremely strange happened. The entire yard was full of snakes, leaving only a narrow path down the middle. He was terrified, but the snakes didn't seem aggressive at all. They were just lying there, not even moving. So he gathered his courage and walked along that little path toward the house. But when he opened the door, he was so shocked he almost fell over. A huge white snake was coiled on top of the table, and it actually growled at him. Even stranger, its face, it didn't look like a snake. It looked like a baby. Too bizarre to explain. He ran to get the neighbors, but by the time people arrived, every single snake was gone. No trace of anything. This incident quickly became village folklore. Some of the elders who understood spiritual matters warned the couple that something big was about to happen in their family, and they were right. That year, the mother-in-law got pregnant, and the next year, OP's wife was born. It was a huge deal for the family. When the baby girl turned 100 days old, they held a celebration. The parents were outside taking care of the guests, leaving the baby sleeping inside alone. When they went back into the house, they froze. That same white snake was there again, coiled beside the baby on the bed, blocking the edge as if it was scared she might fall. It didn't seem hostile at all, so the father-in-law said, "She's still little, please don't scare her. If you ever run out of food, just come find me, I'll take care of you." And just like that, the white snake slipped into a small hole in the wall and disappeared. It didn't show up for another 6 or 7 years. Later, the father-in-law decided to rebuild the old house. On the day construction started, the mother-in-law brought her daughter to watch from the side. Suddenly, the white snake appeared again, but this time, it was glowing. You couldn't miss it. It slithered straight toward them, bumped gently against her foot, flicked its tongue repeatedly, and kept pushing closer as if urging them to move away. Frightened, the mother grabbed her daughter and ran out of the courtyard. And the moment they stepped out, the old wall collapsed. A huge slab of wall fell exactly where they had been standing moments later. So yes, the snake really had been protecting the family. In the end, the man said that even now, the snake still lives in the old house. But what's strange is, whenever he goes back with his wife and in-laws, the snake never appears. When he doesn't go, it sometimes shows up. Still, despite never seeing it himself, he chooses to believe that the snake is real. This story is from a girl named Jin. She said she was raised by her grandma, and ever since she was little, she knew that her grandma had an altar where the family's Baojiaxian lived. People just called it Bagu. She once asked her grandma who Bagu was. Grandma told her it was a male fox spirit. He had yellow fur and had been living with her family for a very long time. Nobody knew exactly when he moved in, but he was already there before Grandma was even born. Unlike typical deity worship, Bagu's altar didn't have a statue or image, just an incense burner where 3 sticks of incense were burned continuously. In front of it, there was always a cup of white liquor, surrounded by all kinds of food, snacks, fruits, vegetables, meat, basically anything fresh from the market. Jin was born 7 months premature. Because of that, her health was always fragile. On her first birthday, she suddenly got a very high fever. It was so severe that she began convulsing immediately. The doctor provided first aid and warned that she might not survive. And even if she did, she could suffer brain damage. Desperate, Grandma ran home and prayed to Bagu, begging him to adopt Jin as his goddaughter and protect her. Miraculously, right after Grandma prayed, Jin's fever went down. The only side effects was that all her baby teeth turned black and her tongue coating darkened. But otherwise, she grew up completely healthy and strong. When Jin was 5, one day she went to her grandma's house to play. Grandma taught her to fold paper boats and even made a really beautiful one for her. That night, Jin rode home on her mother's small scooter, sitting behind her, playing with a paper boat. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew the boat onto the road, and she asked her mom to stop so she could pick it up. Just as she bent down, a speeding motorcycle came barreling toward her. The little girl was frozen, not knowing what to do. But at that moment, an old man appeared out of nowhere, scooped her up, and rode her across the ground, a surprisingly long distance. He carefully checked to make sure she was okay and kept comforting her. When her mom ran over to thank him, he was gone, completely gone. The whole street, no one. Both Jin and her mom were stunned. Just as they were trying to process what had happened, Grandma called. She said that when she had been burning incense for Bagu, she noticed there was a stain of blood in the white liquor, a bad omen. So she called to check if everything was alright. After Jin's mom told Grandma the whole accident, Grandma was also stunned. Looking at the white liquor, she realized it was Bagu who had saved Jin. He had taken the form of an old man and returned injured, which was why the liquor had turned red. And ever since then, whenever something important happens in Jing's family, they go to the altar and kowtow a few times, asking Bagu to bless them. Interestingly, Jing also did this before the exams, and everything went smoothly. She got into university and then graduated school, all thanks to Bagu's protective blessing. But I don't think the OP should credit all her success to Bagu alone. The spirits can give you a little push, sure, but you still have to be good enough yourself to actually pass the exam. Otherwise, everyone would just go pray to spirits and nobody would bother studying. Alright, that's all for today's video. And with this, our little fox spirit talk finally comes to a proper close. Hope you enjoyed them and have a good sleep. See you next Saturday night. Bye bye.